This is the tutorial for Chapter 13 in your Beginning AutoCAD workbook. Okay, our objective for Chapter 13 is to understand how to array objects. So create multiple copies in a rectangular or circular pattern or along a path. Okay, so it says the array command will let you make multiple copies up to 100,000. And it says in the commands you can change that to increase it, but that should cover most users' needs. Okay, so we're going to go through how to actually create an array. So your command would be array. So you could enter that in your command line, or if you come up to your modify box, modify panel, on the last row, there's a tool for rectangular array. So if you hover over that, it'll show you an example. There's also a drop-down menu which shows you path array and polar array. Okay, and it's on the modify panel because you already have to have one object drawn, the object that you want to copy. You already have to have that drawn. So let's do a rectangular array. So my command line says select objects. I just want one rectangle. So select, then enter. Now you'll see your ribbon along the top changes. You can make the changes in your command line, but it's probably easier to use the ribbon up top. So you can either, we have columns which are going across, or we have rows up and down. Levels, don't worry about that, that's for 3D. So in columns and rows, you can specify how many you want, or you can specify the distance between them, or you can specify the total room that it'll take up. So let's say we want 5 columns, and it won't change until you move out of the box that you're typing in. So 5 columns, and I want, let's say 7 rows. And it might take a minute for it to update depending on what you have open. So my preview isn't popping up there just because I have a lot of stuff open. So I'm not going to make any other changes right now. I'm just going to say I want 5 columns, 7 rows, and then I'm going to click close array. So you can see that's what it created. Now if I click on that, it's all one piece. That's all one entity. So if you wanted to change them, then you can modify them using these grips, or you can make the changes right in your command bar, right in your ribbon. The other things you can do is you could edit the source. So the very first rectangle that you started with, you could go in and you could edit that as well. When you're working with arrays, like I said, they're all going to come out as one piece like this. Sometimes you might not want them to be like that, so you'd have to use your explode button right underneath your eraser. So explode, select, enter. Now I have individual rectangles. Okay, so that is our rectangular array. Let's take a look at path. So it says evenly distribute objects along a path or a portion of a path. So I want to move the angle over my actual path that I want it to follow. So path, select my object, hit enter, select your path curve it says, so you can do a curve or a line. So now my ribbon changes again, and I can make my changes up here. So right now it's set for between. I could change that if I wanted to. I could say I want it to be 0.5. Rows, I could have multiple rows if I wanted them. And so in this case, my rectangles took off down. They started at the end point of the line. I want to change the direction of it. So to do that, you have to click 2 points, so the direction where you actually want it to go. We're not going to look at this right now, align items. I'll show you that one with polar array. It's a lot clearer. But yeah, so if you want to make something following a path, you just come in here and use the path array. The last type of array that we want to look at is, let's look at our polar array. Now I could do this, I could have a circle drawn to use for it, but I don't necessarily need one. I'll leave it there as reference though. Okay, so I'm going to move my rectangle up here to the 12 o'clock point. So under polar array, evenly distributes objects in a circular pattern around a center point. So I'll select polar array, and same as before, select your object and hit enter. Now it says specify a center point. So if I wanted to make numbers like on a clock, I'd pick somewhere around, the middle of the circle. And I'll show you two different things here, what happens. So I'll do this one first. So I click the center of my circle, and again I can change how many I want, how many rows I want to have of them, all of that stuff. For now, I'm going to put my rows just back to 1. But I do want to show you this rotate items. So see how my rectangle, as it goes around, it's rotating as well. If I turn that off, my rectangles still go around my circle, but they don't rotate. Okay, I'm going to hit escape instead of close on that. I want to show you about picking that center point. So if I did a polar array and I select my rectangle, and if instead of picking away from it, I picked inside it somewhere or the corner of it or something, that's exactly where it's going to array around, wherever you select the center point to be. Okay, so we had rectangular arrays, path arrays, and polar arrays. That's the end of the tutorial for Chapter 13.